Now let's welcome the fifth oral speaker, Dr. Yu Gao from Beijing International Studies University. Let's welcome.
Okay, thank you. So can you see me? Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Well, I can share my screen first.
Okay.
Okay, so don't know whether it's working, right?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Well, it's my pleasure to attend today's meeting and to share my ideas with the rest of you. The topic of my presentation is the study on the mixing up of Chinese structural particles based on data mining technology. Well, this is actually a topic which might concern everybody here. I know that because most of the participants here are native Chinese. Well, we are using the Chinese characters every day. So I would like to first introduce to you about the research background. Well, we know that for these three Chinese characters, different de, I guess that everybody, when most of you are familiar with it, right? Well, for the first one, it is an attributive mark. The normal collocation structure is as follows. It's an adjective followed by this character de, as well, and then by the noun word. And then for the second de, you can see it is an adverbial mark. The structure is like an adjective or adverb plus de and a verb. Well, for the third one, so you see it's a little bit different, right? It is a complement mark. It's a normal collocation structure. It's just like the verb, adjective as well, followed by this word de and adverb or adjective. So you see that they have different usage despite some common features of them. But people are likely to be confused about these three words. One of the reasons is might because they all read de when they are used as structural particles. Okay. Well, for the previous study, people find that people tend to use the first de to substitute the other two. Well, the first de is the most frequently used character in Chinese. This is quite obvious. Well, other studies also find that the misuse is quite common among middle and primary school students. Therefore, we can see the heated debate on the usage of these three different Chinese characters. Well, a strong voice says that maybe it's necessary to replace de and de, these two de, right, with the first de, the most frequently used one. Well, actually, their argument is that these three words share a lot of common features, and also they can well relieve the burden of both teachers and students if they can be replaced. I mean, if there's only one de left. Well, the other view is totally against this. It believes that, well, there should be the division. I'm sorry, maybe there's one part missing. Okay, there should be a division of this de usage because this division can enhance the accuracy of written expression while reducing ambiguity. It can also avoid readers' misunderstanding in this regard. Okay, so that is the division of the usage. These two totally opposite voices are there. Okay, let's see the current empirical studies. Although we notice that there is only a limited amount of empirical study in this regard. There is one conducted back in 2017. It is about the misuse of these three words on news titles, subtitles. Well, the findings of this study shows that a lot of, there is a big proportion of misuse of these news subtitles, of the misuse of these three different characters. Well, so that's why the author of this paper suggested that maybe there shouldn't be any division of these different three characters. There should be, it's better to use the most commonly used de to replace the other two. Wow. Another study is a questionnaire survey. Well, a survey done by Chen back in 2015 indicates that most secondary school students are inclined to accept the written division of de and make distinctions in their daily life. That's to say, they are inclined to make a distinction. Well, this is the questionnaire in Chinese, and the questions in English is just like whether you know is the usage of these three words, or whether you do make a distinction of these three characters or words in your daily life, or do you think that it's necessary to make a division of usage among the three characters? Well, the last question is that whether you think that whether the benefit outweigh the disadvantages, and if these three words are merged into one. Okay, so it's kind of like this. But the limitation of the current studies are also quite obvious. Now we have limited amount of empirical research in place. Second, there is a lack of large-scale natural corpus. So you can see a lot of corpus is either just designed by the researcher, him or herself, or maybe on a very small scale. It's not quite big one, even for the news subtitle research. The corpus is not big enough, actually. Well, the third limitation is that so far, few studies are conducted on people with higher educational background. As I mentioned before, you can see that in these studies, and most of the respondents are primary or secondary school students instead of college students. Well, based on all these previous studies, and here comes my research questions. So the first one, of course, I would like to see how well can those with higher educational background, like college students, distinguish the use of these three characters, three structural particles, and how they are used in their daily life or actual scenarios. A second question, what is a big picture of misusage of these three structural particles in a large scale natural corpus? Okay, later I will further explain what this natural corpus might mean or refer to. Well, about the research designing, so actually I conducted two researches. The first one is about a questionnaire survey on the use of these three characters among college students. The respondents, 131 college students from a Chinese university, average age 21, about 21.82, and also 105 female, 26 male. But there is an imbalance of male and female. But the previous research or literature show that there is not these gender differences in the field of reading. Okay, so it actually doesn't matter a lot. Well, 11 invalid questionnaires, 120 valid ones. The recovery rate is ideal, it's about 92%. Well, I also designed the self-administered questionnaire, include two parts. First part is about 50 error correction items, examining how well the respondents distinguish these three characters. Well, the second section of this questionnaire is 4 scoring questions and 2 fill-in-the-blank questions, examining the respondents' knowledge of these three structural particles. Well, the second research is to investigate the misuse of these three structural particles based on deep learning and language norms. This is actually combined with the data mining technology. Well, one of the most common scenarios for language use today is actually internet. I guess all of us are surfing internet every day, right? So it's a very important scenario for our daily use. Well, in the current research, we adopted a grammatical error correction-based method and a transformer model to mine the case of the most frequently used one, substituting the other two. Well, this is from a large-scale internet corpus of texts with an aim to investigate the mixing up of these three structural particles in the actual scenarios. Well, we actually use clue corpus small. Okay, this is also a very famous training corpus here in the world today. And we also have another one is a transformer-based DE model. Okay, it's also for training purpose. Well, examples of the training data. Well, so you can see first we also use this transformer-based DE model and for training data so that the machine, so we heard the deep learning, the machine learning today is very popular, and so that it can identify these misuse cases, okay, through the data training session. So here you can just see from these tables, and incorrect sentence, correct sentence, and I also made the translation here. Well, after we training this model, well, you can see the input and output GEC model based on transformers just like this. We have this input output word bedding and the position bedding here. And also the training parameters, okay, which you can also see on this slide. I wouldn't go into detail here. Well, after training these models, we also use another model. Okay, that is a model based on language rules. So we also heard that this on rules, okay, based on rules model. Okay, well, you can see how can we tell this DE is misused. So that's why I'm quite interested in Professor Shen's presentation, the keynote speech, because I guess it also has a lot to do with what I'm presenting here today. Because Professor Shen said that rules cannot replace everything. Okay, because we shall combine rules and with a grammatical use or pragmatical use, right? And a lot of linguistic knowledge. So that's how we try to realize this in our research. So you can see we not just simply design just give order to the machine and say, okay, try to mine out this DE or that DE. No, not that simple. We just try to set a rule here. Okay, for example, the following conditions must be met to identify the case of DE replacing the other one. Either L1. L1 is the word on the left, okay, of this DE, the central word. Okay, well, this is L1, L2, and the further left is L2. Okay, so the near right is R1, and the far right word is R2. Okay, so that's to say either L1 or L2 is adjective or adverb, either R1 or R2 is a verb, and this verb cannot be used as a noun because we find some exceptions. Okay, in that case, we also consult this Chinese dictionary and also a lot of grammatical or pragmatical rules. So I wouldn't go into details, and you can all find these rules in the existing literature. Okay, so in this way, we try to identify this wrong use. Well, the results for the questionnaire is 98% of the respondents learned about the difference among these three characters. Actually, it's pretty ideal result, right? It's also in accordance with the previous study. Yeah, a lot of people actually know this difference. 75% of the respondents knew well of the usage of this word. Okay, the mean and standard difference, up to 85% consider this distinction quite necessary or even very necessary, and 62% of them were very careful to distinguish the three words in their practice. 47% thought that the mixed use of these three words would considerably or even greatly affect their reading practice. Okay, so you can see these results are really in line with the previous studies. And also, respondents could better identify the mixed use of DE and DE. So these are kind of easier to identify compared with the other two. Well, as for non-standard use, the score of this second DE replacing the first one was significantly higher than the first replacing the second, because people can maybe sometimes cannot that easily identify, okay, this the second DE replacing the most frequently used one. Okay, so that's also kind of like we can tell from the daily life. But one thing I would like to draw your attention here, okay, is that it's quite interesting, okay, to see the correlation between the score of, the score of the replacing the, that is the score of identifying, okay, so the wrong use of this misuse of these words, right, also has a lot to do with the score of the Chinese achievement test of the college entrance exam, 高考. Okay, so that's to say, for those with higher is 高考 or Chinese achievement test of the college entrance exam. Okay, so it seems that they can better identify the misuse, okay, of these different characters, different the. So isn't it interesting? Okay, I guess that maybe further research could be done in this regard, okay, to dig out the reason, okay, why this happened. Okay, so this is also one of the findings. Well, the result for the second research and about this big data one, okay, well, so the result is that the total number of most frequently used the replacing the second the in all 36 million the characters was about 51,000 was about this 514,691. So it takes up 1.43% of the total. While the total number of the first the replacing the third was about 606,895 cases. Okay, so it takes up 1.69% of the total. It's far less than we expected, actually, because before we start, and we thought that based on this existing literature, and especially those who argue for the division of the for the most frequently used to replace the others. Okay, we guess that there might be a lot of cases, misuse cases, but actually it's not the case. Okay, so we can see people really have this awareness of a distinction. Okay, so the conclusion here, okay, is the first one, a majority. Okay, you can see these major findings here, and we come to the conclusion. Majority of the respondents have been taught the differences among these three words and their respective use. Most of them are inclined to accept, most of them in our study are inclined to accept the division of the usage and tend to distinguish them in application, while a small proportion of misuse are identified in the big data mining analysis. This means that college students do pay, sorry, here it's not college students, here it's people. Okay, because the second research is about this general public. Okay, people do pay attention to this linguistic phenomenon. While this study might provide a basis for the division of usage among the Chinese structure particle, these three different de in written language. So I hope that this could be enlightening. And actually, for the follow-up research, I also did another research. I did eye tracking research, and to really find out what happened when people are reading the text. Okay, so we use the eye tracking machine. So that is in another paper, and which is also now being submitted into a journal and wait for approval. Okay, so but I really found this area is interesting, and it has a lot to do with this, like the deep learning, and also a lot of other fields, cognitive sciences or psychology. And I really think it's also worthy of the efforts to dig into this area and to see what kind of impact it might have on us. Okay, I'm very glad to share with you with my research today. And also your comments and questions are welcomed. Thank you. You can also contact me through this email on the screen. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gao Yu, for sharing. It is very useful for study. Dr. Li Yin have left a message in group chat.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He said DMT is a comprehensive term which includes a lot of levels and detailed data processing skill. Then which one did you see? You put it on the title. Don't you think this term is too broad?
Okay. Let me see. So,
Yeah. So yes, this is a time limit. So maybe you two could communicate privately, or you could communicate by WeChat or email.
okay.
Okay,
So,
thank you so
thank you for
much.
the question anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now let's welcome the next oral speaker, Dr. Lin Shen from Central South University of Forestry and Technology. Let's welcome.